there any kind of Shibari performances in LA? I bet there must
Oh,
be quite many.
there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many people who do Shibari out here. But your take on your movement is so like authentic.
Hmm.
Like like it's a performance, but it's not a performance. I don't know how to describe that. You
No,
know,
it's a ritual.
it's
That's what I say. I
ritual.
also say it's not a performance because I'm not performing for you. You just get the privilege of watching me doing something that I want to do,
Right.
and my
Yeah.
enjoyment. This is for my enjoyment, and you get to watch it. And I also am an exhibitionist, so I do like when people watch me
Yeah.
in that way. But yes, it is. I when I practice, when I do these kind of rituals and performances, is like tuning into what do I want to do? How do I want to move? What feels good for me? And not doing it because, oh, this looks good. There's definitely that little voice in behind my brain because I am a performer, but I'm trying to tune in more to like, okay, what feels good for me? And I think that's what you kind of can see much more compared to a regular, dance performance.
Got it. Like it's like a felt experience, and it's going to depend it from like moment to moment what moves through you and what comes out.
Yeah. Hmm.
Then the other aspect of it is that you are dressed differently each time, because I realized that performance that I watched, it was kind of like a Victorian style outfit that you had on. So I'm kind of curious about like different characters that maybe come out to play, because my background is clinical psychology, and I like to explore archetypes. And
Mhm.
like if you look at Jungian archetypal like medicine and wisdom, people can play out different roles, right, within
Yeah.
themselves. So I'm curious, like, are there particular roles that come out that are paired up with the feelings? Because I know it's very somatic, but I'm curious about like the outfit choice and maybe even the rope color, the colors you're using. You know what I mean?
So I love everything of the beauty to the eye,
Yeah.
in that way. And for the self-suspension, that was for a like Marie Antoinette ball. So it was gala. It was that kind of feeling from before, but that's my favorite era is the
It's
ball gowns.
gorgeous. I love it.
Yes. And I'm very blessed to have my own costume designer who can help me build this stuff. So and I also noticed that usually for my other Shibari performances, I do love to be extra. This is when I have like an old wedding dress from Madrid or yes, something more royal in that way.
I
Because I
love
love the
it.
contrast of, okay, let's go into rope. And then we have something very beautifully feminine, but
Right.
also masculine. And playing with that. I think it's more about it gives me confidence and I feel good and I become like a peacock to
I
like
love
spread
it.
feathers in that
Right.
way.
You're like, spreading your wings, allowing
Mhm.
people to see you in your expression. Like it's a full expression. That's beautiful. Yeah, because I was curious about that. I'm like, I wonder how she gets into that character too. Um, I would run, not walk, to see Sophia's page on Instagram. And I'm gonna link all of that in the description below. Because her outfit choices and like the house, it just looks like a dream. You know what I mean? It's so ethereal and like, it feels like a dream. So definitely run to her page and look at the outfits. They're like stunning and gorgeous.
I
Um,
love to play.
I know. I love that.
That's
I love that about you. My question, I kind of want to backtrack, because I also relate to having that experience of um, being in two different cultures,
mm,
where I feel deeply American, but I'm also deeply Indian, and I'm
mm.
deeply connected to my Indian roots. And it's a big part of who I am. And you spoke about like being Norwegian and also being like this beautiful blend of like Asian, right? How does that impact like your work and who you are? Like how did that shift happen when it's kind of all like embodied?
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm super grateful to be multicultural.
Mm.
That is for sure. Because I feel like it automatically puts you outside the box, and you kind of have to be like fend for yourself. What is your values? Who are you? I feel like especially for Norwegians, they have a very tendency to try to fit in all into that one box, and everybody's supposed to wear the same jacket, like the same things, it's very conformative. And when I was already outside that box, I tried to fit in, but it couldn't. It kind of gave me, yeah, much more confidence in that way, and also more the ability to see that there are so many perspectives out there. There is not only one truth. There are so many of them, and all of them are real and all of them are valid. And I think that helps when you are kind of multicultural, because you already know there is more out there in this world than the one culture that you kind of raised up in.
Right.
Um, and give you the freedom to actually choose, like, oh, okay, what do I want? What resonates with me? What sounds totally off? But I would also say I'm also coming from a family where my Norwegian family is very typical Norwegians, I would say. But
Right.
my mother was always like the black sheep in the family. She was very alternative, which made it easy for me to then be even more alternative. She
Right.
kind of,
Pave the
yes,
way.
lead the way. And she was always very loving, uansett. Like, bla. Altså, hun elsket meg uansett. She loved me she loved me anyways. She loves me unconditionally.
There you go. No, it's
Yes.
beautiful.
So I could always be myself. And I always knew that I had my mother's support in that way. So I think that also kind of, helped me even more
Right.
in that sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, that's beautiful. Because, what I'm hearing is that what I sense too is sometimes Western culture can be very like limiting and in a box, right? Especially particular spaces. And then if we're a colorful personality and we had come from colorful cultures, it's easier to like break out into that, And what I love is that your mom kind of paved the way for you to be like this self-expression, um, magical being rather than suppressing that.
Yeah.
Because what I've noticed too in like deep colonial, patriarchal, sort of capitalistic spaces, you are having to fit into this thing. And I tried. I resonate with you. I tried and it doesn't work.
No.
I was in so much pain. I got sick. It pushes you out of that, right?
Mm.
And so were you ever trapped in that yourself? Did you ever find yourself like trapped in that type of thinking or that box? And how did that feel? Because for someone who's so expressive like yourself, I'm just curious how that felt.
I think the only time I felt that was at high school in Norway. I think that's
Mm.
where I really struggled to try to fit in and didn't work. And I still got commented on, and I was always the outsider. And I felt very alone in that. I was feeling a lot of loneliness. And I would say it's kind of more like the recipe that we are given. Like, you need to get a job, you need to do this, you need to get a kid's house, and like that structure there. I think that is more what I got stuck into, that I had to do. I had to produce. I had to produce as much as possible and most efficient as possible, because we have limited time. And I was like, okay, what can we do? How much can we fit into my schedule? And I think that is what I've just recently like, hey, fuck, slow down. I think that is the box that I just came out of, is like, we're running to just to fulfill, and we're always having 10 things on our agenda that's only technically room for two. That over consuming and overproducing, I think that's the box that I've been in, and that has been overwhelming. But like, I had to, like, before, I think I was just also closed off. I
Mm.
didn't feel that much. I didn't understand that much because I didn't know how deep you could feel. And I think that's the most issue maybe for many people, is that we're always on the surface level, because we have to survive. And if we, because of life is so intense, and if we um, try to, go deeper, we often just like close up and bottle it up and put it under the carpet, because it's so intense. And then I think for me to be slapped in my face and be like, oh, fuck, working 16-hour days does not work in the long run. it pushed my emotions out. I like at work at my restaurant, I would suddenly start bawling, crying, and had to run out. And I was like, what's happening? Why am I suddenly crying? And that has been like the opening journey to like, okay, my emotions and then becoming sensitive. I think that's also what I'm also learning now is sensitivity is something that you can learn. We all are technically sensitive, but because of society today and living a city life, you have to desensitize. Like it's not possible to live in like I was in Berlin and that was so intense on my nervous system. I was like, oh my God, how can people live here? Because now I feel much more. I'm much more connected to my body and my senses because of that. So yeah, I think that's my main like coming out of the box of society.
I do see that because what came to mind is I think you had a stara, like a community, right? That you were
Yeah.
kind of like really in, it seems like it was high production value, and then you kind of had to pump things out to get it going and running. And so you're realizing that's not how you work, and it takes you away from your sensitivity,
Mm.
right? And, so how do you find that balance? Because I know you're still a businesswoman, right? And we're sensitive beings, because I totally relate to that when society pushes you to produce, but you're like the sensitive being who thinks and feels differently, who doesn't know maybe quite how to get money to flow your way. I get a lot of questions on my podcast about that. Well, like,
Mm.
how do I get, money to flow my way and follow my passion and do what I love and be a sensitive being? And it seems like you have a good balance of that in some
I
way.